Welcome, everyone, and a good afternoon to this 4 p.m. session. Over the years, the European Commission has given birth to different bodies, which are now all part of the framework program, sometimes difficult to differentiate. These different animals are indeed named EIT, EIC, ERC. Throughout this session, we will dive deeper into the differences and complementaries, as well as potential synergies. So stay with me to welcome the panelists. First, I'm very happy to welcome Professor Maja Makarov. She's Director of Biocenter Finland, Chair of Technology Academic Finland, member of the European Innovation Council Advisory Board, and former member of the Governing Board of the European Institute for Innovation and Technology. Welcome. Joya Gezi is a member of the EIT Governing Board and also holds a number of non-executive and institutional roles, including Chair of the RGI Group, Corsair Capital, Board Member and Chair of the Nomination Committee of Atlantia Edizione Holding. Welcome, Joya. Catherine Schreiber is a co-founder of Advetous GmbH, a beneficiary of the EIC SME Instrument Phase 2, the EIC Accelerator Pilot COVID-19, as well as a winner in the EIT Health Catapult 2019 competition and a participant in the EIT Digital Access to Finance program. She has developed or co-developed an instrument, a device that is very important also during COVID-19 times now. Shirley Sipkuli is a shareholder of Advetous. She's the director of the Geological Survey of Estonia, a survey that was established only 2 years ago. Ms. Sipkuli obtained diploma engineering, chemical engineering, and environmental chemistry. And my name is Kurt Höller. I'm a director of business creation at EIT Health since 2015. And under my leadership, we have supported more than 750 companies that have raised more than 250 million euro in total. Now I would like to involve also the audience. And now it is time to ask the first question via a poll. Please go on slido.com and enter hashtag RI20 and then click on Hub 6. Slido.com, hashtag RI20, and please click on Hub 6. And there we want to know from you what startups and innovative ventures need the most in the current time of uncertainty. Access to equity and funding or loans, access to financial grants, access to market or customer, access to external expertise, including technology. That's the 4 selections that you can do, and we will have a look later. But now coming back to the content of this session. To better understand EIT, ERC, and EIC, it might be best to dive a bit into history. According to legend, the EIT was born from a visit by President Barroso to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT in Boston, in 2006. And he experienced the excellent network of academia, business, entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, and political initiatives. On his return, he immediately launched the EIT project as a European MIT, as a European research powerhouse, but not only research, also the inspirational entrepreneurship and investment ecosystem to rival MIT. An autonomous regulation was negotiated under the previous German presidency of the Union during the first semester of 2007. Since then, the different knowledge and innovation communities, each one of them focusing on specific societal changes, starting with energy, digital, climate, health, raw materials, and many others, since then have grown and prospered. For its part, about the same time, the ERC was created at the strong request of the researchers community and almost against the will of the then Commission, which was very reluctant to set up single beneficiary instruments, especially for the benefit of individual researchers, whatever their scientific qualities. The ERC was, however, launched with the 7th Framework Program and has been, as early as the end of 2007, a huge success. Finally, a few years later, building on the pre-existing SME instrument and on the future emerging technologies program, but also on some US experiences such as DARPA, the EIC was largely born out of the will of Commissioner Moedas. A pilot was launched for the years 2018 to 2020 and also made a great success. For example, the blended financing now includes a loan from EIB and is extremely attractive and sought after. Now we want to hear a bit from beneficiaries that have gone through at least 2 of those institutions. We will have 2 startup pitches. 5 minutes intro by our 2 startups that have been supported by both institutions, EIC and EIT. Please, can you share with us your company's journey and how support from EIT and EIC helped you in that journey? Which barriers, challenges, and programs have helped you to overcome? Let's start with Shirley Zipkuli from Biota Tech. I hope you already managed to get into the call. Yes, here's Shirley. Let's get started. 3 minutes for your product and then 2 minutes for your interactions with EIC and EIT. Shirley, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly well.
Fantastic. Good afternoon from Estonia, and thank you for the possibility to share our experience about working together with the EIC and the EIT. We all know about the Green Deal, and we all know that in order to meet the goals of the Green Deal, we need technologies that also need metals. And we believe in our company that those metals should be extracted from various low-grade ores in a green way as well. So therefore, our company is developing biotreatment technologies that help to extract the metals from low-grade wastes and ores and tailings as well. Yes, that was the slide I was planning to show you. Thank you. So green technology providing metals essential for meeting the goals of the Green Deal. So that's our company and our technology and our innovation. Now, in order to talk about the cooperation and the help we have received from EIT and EIC, I would like to show the next slide. And I made you a ladder that would maybe illustrate better our journey. I would like to show you that in my experience, EIT and EIC are not competing with each other, but they are strongly supporting us, supporting each other. In 2017, we won the EIC SMA Instrument 1, Phase 1 grant, and that enabled us to carry out market research, feasibility study, and investigate the freedom to operate. Based on that, we got the confidence to go further with the R&D work in 2018 that was supported with the LIFE program. And in 2018, we were happy to be among the 10 companies who were selected by the EIT Raw Materials to take part in the pilot phase of the booster or accelerator call. And in that booster, we received a fantastic training from very highly experienced expert. And together with him, we made very proper financial model and the business model. Now, those models gave us the strong belief that we can go further with our innovation, and we applied this spring to SMA2 or EIC SM Accelerator Phase 2, so to say, Green Deal call. And we were among those 2.3 happy ones that received good grades. So this week, we are signing the grant agreement. So sorry, but I think that's all I plan to say this phase.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Congratulations to this big success. That's really a great achievement. A quick reminder to the audience, please submit your answers in the poll. We will close the poll pretty soon after the next pitch from Catherine. So please go on slido.com, #RI20, and go to Hub 6. Now, Catherine, moving to you and Advetous. You, as a co-founder, contributed a lot to a device that is very important even nowadays. Please let us get some of your insights.
Thank you, Kurt, and thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be part of this panel. Okay, Advetous is a Munich-based medtech scale-up in deep tech because it has developed a disruptive multi-organ support device to treat patients on the intensive care unit with multi-organ failure. Multi-organ failure is in 60% of these cases the cause of death, resulting in 500,000 dead patients per year in Western Europe and the US alone. And the coronavirus outbreak actually drastically increased this number because the severely ill COVID-19 patients also suffer from multi-organ failure. Our Advetous device is the only device that integrates in one single device and also based on one single technology, liver, kidney, and lung support, as well as the correction of blood pH. And the correction of blood pH is necessary in about 50% of ventilated ICU patients. We are actually also technology leader in liver support and blood pH correction, and clinical data shows that Advetous increases ICU patient survival from 10% up to 50%. Where are we at? We have the CE mark, and we started market entry in Germany with currently 20 customers and 2 million euros in revenues in 2019. But we also want to further continue our journey, and we develop our development plans include to integrate fluid-based blood oxygenation and to integrate AI-based user assistance into the device. And this is also why we applied for innovation project grants at the European level. So regarding our experience with EIC and EIT, Advetous, as Kurt also mentioned, is beneficiary of a 2.3 million euro grant of the SME Instrument Phase 2 grant 2019. And Advetous also got accepted into the EIC Accelerator Pilot Blended Finance Program 2020, combining grant money and equity-like investment from the EIC fund. We followed the special COVID-19 call in March because, as I said, the severely ill COVID-19 patients also have multi-organ failure. And our clinical outcome was also confirmed in COVID-19 patients. So that the patients with COVID-19 which were treated with Advetous had a survival rate of 50% instead of the expected 10%, as they were really critically ill on their intensive care unit. Regarding the EIT, we made third place in the EIT Health Catapult competition in 2019, which not only gives us visibility and reaffirmation due to the success in the competition, but also helpful mentoring from coaches located throughout Europe. And we are also currently supported by the EIT Digital Access to Finance program. This program provides per year 10 carefully selected companies a very well needed hands-on support throughout the whole fundraising process. That means the Access to Finance team reviews the business and financial plan, as well as the pitch deck and the investor documents to make the company investor ready. And the major support for us is that the Access to Finance team also handles and coordinates searching for and contacting potential financial and strategic investors worldwide, and also accompanies us in the first pitch calls and gives us feedback afterwards, and also feedback from the investors. So we are currently raising 20 million euros to accelerate market expansion and penetration, and this is challenging for several reasons. Our product is medical hardware with longer time to be fully established on the market. Nowadays, most healthcare venture funds prefer to invest in sole digital health. And the investment volume of 20 million euros is quite large for a European dimension. And we, as for a startup, are too old or too advanced for most private venture funds who prefer to start at a seed or early stage. And as a scale-up, we are not advanced enough for private equity or venture debt. So we are really fortunate to benefit from the EIC funding to survive the so-called second value of death at the marketing entry stage, and to have the help of the EIT Digital Access to Finance program to identify the right potential investors throughout the world. Yeah, and of course, it's always helpful to have the visibility and an external review regarding our business plan and strategy.
Very impressive and very positive to see engagement like yours. Now let's get back to the poll. Please, let's have a look. Can we have a look on the outcome of the poll? That possible? let's wait until year. So access to equity funding or loans was number A. Number B was access to financial grants. Number C was access to market or customers. And number D was access to external expertise and technology. And we can see that the largest request is still 52% to access to financial grants. That's number B. But, and I think that's very positive, that also access to equity funding and loans, as well as access to market and customers, is very sought after. And it's also positive to see that access to external expertise and technology is also a very important piece that matters to many startups. Let's take that for the continuing discussion. And now everyone in the audience who got used to slido.com, please also use that tool to ask your questions for the discussion that we have later on. Joya, you recently have been selected as the chair of the governing board of EIT. Congratulations again to that. EIT has a 10-year track record of supporting students, companies, and innovators across Europe and beyond. A year ago, the Commission decided to create a EIC, with what it seems a similar mission. What are the EIT's thoughts on this?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. And then thank you for this question, which is on the mind of many. So it's an opportunity to clarify that. So as you mentioned, the European Institute for Innovation and Technology started really 10 years ago. And over the past 10 years has had incredible success in fostering and nurturing 8 different ecosystems for innovation across Europe. So, according to the legend that you referred to, Mr. Barroso went to MIT and said, why can't we have something like this in Europe? And it's not something like MIT, but it's like Boston. It's a place where education and research and business and venture capital come together to create what we call an ecosystem that allows innovations to thrive. The European Institute of Innovation and Technology is now 10 years old and has a proven track record. I think you used the word powerhouse of creating this ecosystem across Europe. 10 years ago, Europe was very fragmented across the areas where we work, which I remind you are climate change, renewable energy, digital transformations, which are all pivotal, by the way, in the recovery fund, urban mobility, raw materials. We just heard a very nice story about it, smart manufacturing, food and health. And we heard a second fascinating story about health. So in all these 8 areas, we've created an environment all over Europe where innovators can thrive, where they really can jump from an idea to the lab to a product that you can sell to customers. And the European Institute of Innovation and Technology has been absolutely successful in this. It has created, well over 3,000 new ventures. Over 1,000 products have gone to market. Thousands and thousands of jobs have been created. And funds from private investors have come in for over 3 billion euros to sustain and support our ventures. The EIC, I think Maria will talk more about it, is very complementary to this, because it really finances ventures and innovative companies to scale up First of all, it does it in any field, not just the 8 arenas where the European Institute for Innovation and Technology is active. So, for example, if there was a fascinating company in aerospace, which is something that the EIT is not covering, the EIC could finance that. But also, you know, in the areas where we work, we create the environment for these companies to start and to have access to accelerator programs, and then they can move to the EIC to really scale up and get the finance to thrive. So I think that the EIC and the EIT will work more and more together, and actually have been working together already in a very complementary way to achieve the same mission, which is that of fostering innovation across Europe.
Thank you. Thanks, Joya. And thanks also for outlining on my very provocative question on the similar mission, that actually there's a lot of synergies and complementarities. Maya, you have been providing strategic guidance to both EIT and EIC as an EIT governing board member and an EIC advisory board member. So following on what Joya said, where do you see the main differences between the EIT and the EIC, and of course also potential synergies?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here together with you virtually this afternoon. And indeed, both EIT and EIC, they share the same aim. And this is translation of the European research strengths into jobs and growth. So nevertheless, these two efforts and organizations have very important unique features. So let's list them. So the EIC funds directly researchers on emerging technologies with grants, and startups and SMEs with grants or equity or blended finance, which means both grants and equity, like we heard before. The EIT creates innovation ecosystems, like we heard from Joya. And these ecosystems, these 8 ecosystems, they cover the whole of Europe. So the EIT has institutional partners, and the number is huge. It's more than 1,500. And these institutions are universities, research organizations, institutes, startups, SMEs, large companies. Now, the EIC awardees, they need an ecosystem to network in, to find partners, and to have support. And then again, the EIT ecosystems are void without innovators, researchers, individuals. So these two organizations really complement each other and form a perfect match. And I think that we heard from Catherine and Shirley very nice examples where they have benefited in a synergistic way from both EIC support and EIT support. I would like to list a couple of other unique features now between the EIT and the EIC. Now, as Joya mentioned, EIT, the knowledge and innovation communities, they are thematic. So at the moment, the EIT works in 8 thematic areas, which Joya listed, whereas the EIC is more bottom-up. There have been a couple of thematic calls, but nevertheless, mainly it is a bottom-up organization, and meaning that it funds any technology areas. Now, the EIT embraces any form of innovation, starting from incremental innovations, and the EIC focuses on disruptive, groundbreaking, deep tech innovations. A very specific feature of the EIT is the educational program. Higher education, very important activity for the EIT, whereas the EIC has no activities in the educational area at all. Then the EIT has built a fantastic network of hubs in 14 countries, which score modestly in the European Innovation Scoreboard, which are emerging innovation countries. And EIT has a specific program, the RIS program, Regional Innovation Scheme program, which now supports the capacity building in the area of innovation in these 14 countries, which extend from the Baltic Sea down to the south. Then again, the EIC has concentrated a lot on female innovators and researchers. There's a specific focus to provide opportunities for, of course, both male and female innovators. EIT has not been inactive in this area, but nevertheless it has had no specific program for women innovators. So here we have listed main differentiating characteristics of these two organizations, and one can really tell that they are very, very synergistic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Maya. That clarified again a lot, and it's nice to see that it fits into the same picture. Now let's get back to our two entrepreneurs and let's ask them. What are your future plans for your development and of your products and of course of your whole company? And how do you think EIT and EIC, especially after what you have heard now, can help you in these endeavors also in the future? Maybe let's start with Catherine first this time.
Thank you. So yes, our main plan is to expand into Europe, of course, with our current therapy, and also to prepare market entry in the US. And additionally, we also plan to further enhance our therapy with the integration of the fluid-based blood oxygenation and AI-based user systems. And yeah, I have to admit that this is both costly. So one part is really to get the right amount of finance and funding. And the other part is, of course, also to get a good network of coaches or consulting regarding very specific needs or coaching questions. And also a network to have contact to the right hospitals and clinics for trials and to find out the right key opinion leaders. But what I experienced is it's also essential that these databases, which are already provided, that they have sufficient means of doing search, because our questions are very, or our need for coaches are very specific. And so it's also helpful to really be able to make a specific search in these platforms or network databases.
Thank you. Thanks, Catherine. And let's right away ask Shirley for your inputs. What do you think? What's important for you? What matters to you?
Well, first of all, with the help from the EIC accelerator that we receive now, we will upscale our lab in the coming next 2 years. And that enables us to approach the early adopters or the various mining and metallurgical companies all around Europe and the rest of the world. And in that, I believe we will need a strong support from the EIT raw materials. We do plan to become a member of the Baltic Hub and try to get as much support from the partners of the EIT raw material as possible. So we plan to go further. There was a talk about the coaches. We are now quite happy that it took us about 4 weeks to find us 2 suitable coaches from the EIC network, but we found them. It's quite hard to find coaches that have the needed background when you are dealing with high innovation.
Thank you. Let's Maybe start with Joya. We have heard from both. So Catherine has basically said it's important to have access to networks, and the most important thing that matters to them is expanding to European markets. And also Shirley has explained now she has money. She has the grant money and the budget to set up labs, but together with the support from EIT and the experts, the networks there, she wants to set it up. So now the big question is, how can we make sure that with companies coming with the huge EIC accelerator grants, channeling them into the KICs and making sure that they have direct access? So Joya,
Yes,
what would you say? How can we ensure that this pipeline works?
We need to establish closer and closer links so that the networks that we have of business partners and advisors, which are really outstanding, pan-European, and encompass thousands of people and businesses, are matched in a way that becomes faster and really extremely useful. I think databases are useful. Human contact, advisory services, networks that move at pace with innovation are even more useful. And that is what the KICs are there for, to connect these young ventures quickly with the right type of advice. It could be business advice, for example, on an international expansion. It could be research advice on the improvement of a product. It could be education to access a pool of people who have the right background in research, but also the right entrepreneurial skills to enter into these companies and make a difference from day one. So I think that the EIC-funded companies can benefit immensely from the EIT KICs and ecosystems where they exist, because, as we were saying earlier, we operate only in 8 big areas. That covers a lot already. Equally, the startups that are fostered and founded and funded by the EIT KICs can benefit immensely from the EIC business acceleration services and grants.
Thank you, Joya. Thanks a lot. Maya, maybe just to follow on what Joya just has said, of course, it also works the other way around. So we see many companies coming from EIT. So I learned to know Catherine in our EIT programs, and then she celebrated her success in getting accepted for the EIC accelerator. Of course, I was super convinced that she is great and that she will manage, but in the end, it would be better to formalize that a bit and to have kind of a fast track from our EIT superheroes into the EIC accelerator. How could that work?
Yes, indeed. So we have a working group with members from the EIC Advisory Board and the EIT Governing Board, and we are our task is really to concretize these measures and think of ways how beneficiaries of the EIC and of the EIT then could take advantage of both sources of resource, both immaterial and material. So indeed, fast track access to the EIC Accelerator program for the EIT supported startups is on the list. So we are not done with the work of the working group. We aim at finalizing it in December. Also, there has been discussion on co-investment possibilities by the EIC fund together with the EIT kicks into startups and SMEs. I would like to mention one other element which should be extremely beneficiary for the awardees of EIC and EIT, and this is the EIC program managers. I think there will be 5 program managers, which are very high profile, competent people with a fantastic track record, and they will have a very dynamic role, and they will work pretty independently. And so the idea is that they will be familiarized with the EIT kicks and how they operate in order to see themselves the synergistic opportunities, and in this way then help both EIC awardees and EIT awardees to find resources from the respective other organization.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So going back to the 2 startups, we have heard a lot of good ideas. So actually the close links, including both, as Joya has said, databases, so in the end IT and data, but also human contacts. It's always important to connect people, even if that has to happen online throughout COVID-19. That will definitely help to bridge the gaps and overcome potential hurdles. And Maya also provided insights into the working group that is still working until December, as we have heard. The fast track access definitely will be one element, but also the co-investment program. As we know, there is different co-investment opportunities, also together with not only EIB, but also EIF and the grants that we have available at EIC and EIT. But also the idea, and that's again back to human bridges of the program managers that know the programs of the KICs by heart, and that is definitely a difficult and challenging task, I can confirm, but that is important to have this type of people to build the bridges. So Catherine and Shirley, and starting now with Shirley again, having heard that, is there anything that you would have in mind on top on what is already going on and what is already developed? Or is there something that you would like to emphasize where you say that's the large opportunity that you see to make your life easier? Or putting it in other words, if that would have been existing already a year ago, your life would have been so much easier back then. So Shirley, let's start with your insights.
Well, I would like to rephrase your last sentence in a way that if there wouldn't be EIT and EIC, our company wouldn't exist. That's for sure. But to go further, everything that Maya explained and described made me very strongly believe that we should be part of the EIT hub, definitely. We would strongly be interested in these co-investment possibilities. But when you asked about what would we need on top, I think mostly we need to get the contacts, the network. We need to find the possible early adopters among those EIT partners, where we could, with them, we could start implementing our technologies. So that's the thing we are after.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Catherine.
Thank you. I have to agree with Shirley that actually EIC and EIT are a great support and help for us also. I think we would not, we really need this funding, and it's also really good to hear that you're working on this fast track program, because I have to admit in the last years, a very large amount of time we needed to spend on fundraising, which we would have loved to spending on innovation or on strategy deployment or organizational growth. And so this is really good news to us. And also, the network and contacts to key opinion leaders, but I think they're in EIT Health. They've started it with a good already network and the test bed, and I think continue that good work.
Thanks a lot, Catherine. Thank you. So we have still a few minutes left, 6 minutes left for questions from the audience. And let me pick up the first one. 3 questions. Let's see if we manage to go through the 3 questions. The first one, what will be the main consequences over the kicks of the integration of EIT within Pillar 3 of Horizon Europe? That's a question from Esther Herters from EURECAT in Barcelona. Who would like to pick up that question? That's definitely an expert question to Joya or Maria. Joya, would you be ready to go?
I think, I think it's excellent that we now have, a pillar fully focused on innovation. And the EIT definitely belongs there because of the track record that it has. So I think that with that, the EIT has found its home. We have very big plans for the next decade, which are, currently being finalized at EU level. And I think being part of the innovation pillar will highlight the pivotal role that the EIT has had and will continue to have in this junction, with COVID and the need to kickstart and restart economic growth in a sustainable green way. In Europe, innovation is key, and we're definitely part of the answer.
Thank you. Let's jump to the next question. How can we better integrate the different schemes? For most companies and even researchers, the whole funding landscape is a huge jungle. So just again, how can we better integrate the different schemes? For most companies and even researchers, the whole funding landscape is a huge jungle. We don't know who asked the question, but it certainly is an important and interesting question. Maya, may I ask you to reflect on that?
Yes. So we have activities ongoing at 2 levels. One is the strategic level that we have been discussing here, which is now the EIC Advisory Board's task and the EIT Governing Board's task. But then we have the operational level. And now, as I think Joya mentioned, there is already a pilot ongoing where the EIC and the EIT, 4 kicks of the EIT work together at the operational level to search for means and ways to work together. And so I think that we will learn by doing. And then we have the 3rd level, which is perhaps the most important, and this is Shirley and Catherine's level. Those leaders of these innovations and founders of the startups. So we have 3 levels where we all work for the benefit of both organizations and Europe and mankind, and we are learning by doing. So we are not going to be, finalized in December with all the questions and the means and the activities, but we will learn, and this is very important. I think that there should be also connectivity between the 3 levels to know what is going on at the operational level with the kicks, at the SME innovator level, and then the strategic level.
Thank you so much, Maya. And thanks for highlighting the pilot, because that is definitely something that many eyes are on. Because as you say, learning by doing, taking the first steps together and see how it works, that definitely will be very fruitful and very beneficial. And we all have very good ideas on how to implement the first pilots. Let's see how that works out. The 3rd question is focusing on the contact points. So numberless contact points, complex R&I landscape, how to overcome the problem of finding advice in specific parts of Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe only. We also don't know who asked the question, but I think it was partially addressed by Maya and Joya. So we will have, for example, the EIC program managers that take that bridging role, that know what the kicks offer, but of course they are positioned at EIC, so they very well know also what happens at EIC. I'm pretty sure that we will have great solutions for that upcoming. We all know that the more different programs we have, the more important it is to have human knowledge, to have people that are able to guide startups, entrepreneurs, innovators through that. And as we heard, that build those bridges. That is all about. Sorry, Maya, Joya, I won't have time to ask you to answer that question anymore because we want to finish in time, and I already got the signal that we are at the end of the session. Please let me thank again the panelists. It was a great pleasure, Maya, Catherine, Joya, and Shirley. Yes, thank you so much. Talk to you soon, and thanks again for the team preparing the session.